Hi everyone, I'm Scott Robert Lim and I'm here to show you how I came up with this image and how I completed it, and actually everything from concept to completion I'm going to go through real quickly. Okay, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about the BTS, what was going on here. I used Stella CLX light, which is very powerful, just to take away some of the shadows that was being created on my subject. And so this little light um, is very powerful, and I was able to add just a bit of catch light in the eye. And so my whole thinking here was is that I needed to get that, have some brightness come in here with taking out some of the shadow, make it look natural. Also, I pushed the subjects back here at the end of the pier, because when there's hundreds of tourists around, you want to make sure that the water is behind them, which would eliminate a lot of the clutter. Okay, so even though there was hundreds of people around, we went to the end of the pier and, and just took over it, because that way I could get a clean background so it would look like they were by themselves. All right, so posing wise, I had them just do a very simple pose, but actually, um, what you really want to do to make things look natural is to create this diamond in between and some space. So what I like doing is kind of have their hips together, them slightly lean back, and then tilt their heads in. Because if you press them, a normal couple together, is going to look like two sticks pushed together. And that's not real pleasing to the eye when it comes to posing couples. And so if I have them come together, slightly lean back, but then tilt their heads in together, you get this diamond, which I'm going for, this diamond space here, which looks really great. And as you can see, I've got a little catch light right in the eye, so it's going to make for a very nice portrait. I believe if you don't have a catch light, you don't really have a portrait. Okay, so now I've got my nice shot. I'm using a 24 millimeter lens 1.4, and I really love this lens by Sony that has, it's the new 24 millimeter 1.4, because I can take a wide angle shot with it and I can take a close-up portrait and still blur the background out, which looks really beautiful. So I shot this at 1/2000th of a second at f1.4. Okay, on a Sony a7R III. Now I'm going to post process it. I know I didn't have a great sky. It's overcast, and it's really hard to shoot in overcast weather. It's great that you have very even lighting, um, and so you don't have to blow out your highlights. But in another sense, it's kind of drab, and sometimes the colors aren't there. So I'm going to add a sky here. So here's my next photo where I took it into Photoshop and I added a sky. And when you add sky, it's very important that you match the tones in the sky with the tones on your subject and in your background. It has to be believable. So the tones in the sky have to have the same tones in your subjects, or else it's going to look completely fake. Also, you have to worry about reflections. So you can see how this highlight here is reflected back into the oceans, right? And this dark spot here is reflected here. And so these tones are reflected also back into the background of your subject. In here, this case, it's the ocean. And so that makes it look believable too. And so it's really hard sometimes to add skies if you don't really know how to make everything look believable, and it looks like, oh man, you just added a fake sky. The fake sky is because the highlights and the shadows don't match the background, and that's what you're having. That's the problem. Okay, so and another thing is that you have to make sure that the skin is looks believable, and you don't whack out the skin color too. And that's another skill that you have to learn how to do in Photoshop. Then my finishing touch on top of this, my signature style is lighting, right? And I love a lot of backlighting. I love a lot of lens flare, and that's why I love Alien Skin. And I brought it into Alien Skin, and I added just a little touch of lens flare and a little bit more backlight just to create my signature style. And so that's how I finished off this image. That were some of my thoughts behind it. Um, and just continue to follow me on Facebook, and I will have more of these videos. All right, thanks, and until next time.